The sleek, modern office hums with tension. He and Jungkook, 28 years old, sharp in a tailored suit, leans back in his leather chair. Across from him stands YN, 25 years old, fire blazing in her eyes. Beside him, his ever-present and overly polished secretary Soojin is 31 years old, smirks slightly, pretending to take notes. Jungkook. Coldly, "You're fired." The words cut through the air like a knife. For a second, silence. Then, incredulous, "I'm what?" Jungkook. "I said, you're fired, pack your things and leave." Blinks, stunned, but anger bubbles fast, too fast. You're firing me?" Just like that, no explanation, no conversation. Jungkook. "I don't owe you one. It's business. You're done." Soojin shifts beside him, lips twitching in amusement. Clocks it. Her blood boils. Wow. 2 years together, Jungkook. 2 years of putting up with your overgrown ego and your emotional constipation, and this is how you treat me?" Jungkook sad-faced curtly, "This isn't personal." Mocking, "Oh, of course not. Because nothing's personal to you, right? You just throw people away the second they stop worshipping you." She steps closer to his desk, her voice sharp and loud enough for the whole office to hear. Furious, "Let me guess, your little lapdog over here whispered in your ear." Glaring at Soojin, "What? She's been dying to get me out so she can bring you coffee and bat her fake lashes in peace." Soojin. Smiling thinly, "I'm just doing my job." Mocking, "Your job? What's that, being his personal parrot? Must be exhausting, repeating everything he says while kissing his ass." Jungkook. Warning, cutting him off, "No. You don't get to shut me up, Jungkook. I have spent 2 years bending over backward, supporting you when you were drowning in work, holding your hand through every crisis, and this is how you repay me? By humiliating me in front of your glorified assistant." Jungkook. Clenching his jaw, "You're out of line." Laughing coldly, "Out of line? Please. You're the one sitting there playing corporate overlord like you're God's gift to this company." She grabs her bag, but she's not done. Not even close. You know what's funny? I ignored every red flag. The way you shut down when things got tough. How you never once apologized when you were wrong. And now this. Guess you finally showed your true colors." Soojin, smirking, "If you're finished." Mocking, "Oh, sweetheart, I'm just getting started." She turns her fiery gaze back to Jungkook. "I hope you enjoy your little echo chamber here, Jungkook. But mark my words, one day, you'll realize you lost the only person who gave a damn about you outside your stupid spreadsheets and power plays." Jungkook. Quiet but tense, "Leave. Now." Gladly. "Keep your job. And while you're at it, keep your little pet too. You two deserve each other." With that, she spins on her heel and storms out, leaving a stunned silence behind. The door slams shut. For the first time, Jungkook's cold mask cracks just a little. But Soojin, ever the professional, merely raises an eyebrow. Soojin, smiling, "Well, she was dramatic." Jungkook doesn't respond. His jaw tightens as his eyes linger on the door where she just walked out. Jungkook's office. Night, flashback. The office is quiet, too quiet. The city lights glow faintly through the floor-to-ceiling windows. Jungkook sits at his desk, a stack of reports in front of him, but his focus is elsewhere. It's been a long day. And an even longer week. He leans back, exhaling, when a voice. Soft, sharp, just outside his office door. His brows furrow as he catches the familiar tone. His secretary, Soojin, always composed, always controlled, but there's something different in her voice tonight. Something colder. Curiosity tugs at him. Quietly, he rises and moves toward the door, leaving it slightly ajar. Soojin, whispering, "I told you I don't care how it happens. Just make it clean." Soojin, tense, "She's becoming a problem. And I'm done waiting for him to come to his senses." His breath hitches. Every nerve in his body goes rigid. He knows who. He grips the edge of the door, knuckles white. "Soojin, I need her gone. For good." His heart pounds harder, louder, but he doesn't move. Doesn't speak. Soojin, quiet but venomous, "She's too deep in his life. As long as she's around, he'll never be mine." His stomach twists painfully, but he stays hidden in the shadows, forcing himself to stay calm. "Soojin, I want it done quietly. No mess. No loose ends." The air feels heavy like poison seeping through his veins. His instincts scream to storm out and end this now. To fire her. To stop her. But he doesn't. He can't. If he exposes her now, YN becomes a bigger target. His only way to protect her is to stay quiet. For now. Soo-jin, smirking, don't worry. She won't see it coming. Jungkook's jaw tightens, every muscle locked. Inside, a storm rages, but outwardly, he remains still. Controlled, calculating. Jungkook himself think. Stay calm, get her out. If Soo-jin knows he overheard, she'll act faster. If he moves recklessly, YN pays the price. He can't risk it, so he stands there, silent, watching, waiting. Soo-jin, firmly, make sure there's no trace. I don't want her connected to him anymore. Jungkook, internally, she doesn't know what's coming. But I do, and I won't let it happen. Soo-jin ends the call with a soft click. She adjusts her hair, her reflection caught in the glass, wearing the same composed mask she always does. When she finally walks away, her heels clicking softly down the hall, Jungkook exhales a breath he didn't realize he was holding. But his mind is already moving a mile a minute. Jungkook, I'll get her out. Before it's too late. Jeon family mansion, night. The grand living room of the Jeon family home is nothing short of luxurious. It's peaceful, calm, until, bang, the front door swings open hard, slamming against the wall. YN stumbles inside, heels clicking unevenly against the marble floor. Her hair is a little messy, her lipstick slightly smudged, and she's definitely drunk. Mrs. Jeon, poised and elegant, looks up from her herbal tea, startled. Mr. Jeon lowers his newspaper slowly. YN, slurring, hello, mom, dad, guess who's unemployed and fabulous? Mrs. Jeon, in, YN, raising a hand, the one and only. She stumbles a little but recovers with dramatic flair, tossing her bag onto the coffee table. YN, did you know? Did you know your perfect son fired me today? Fired, after 2 years of my blood, sweat, and tears, emotional labor. Mr. Jeon, raising an eyebrow, Jungkook fired you. YN, oh, yes, sir. Your beloved golden child, the heir to the Jeon Empire, cut me loose like last season's handbag. And in front of that devil in Prada he calls a secretary. Mrs. Jeon tries to maintain composure, but her lips twitch. Mrs. Jeon, Soo-jin. YN, yes, Soo-jin, with herb, I'm so perfect and I wear beige, attitude. I swear, she's been plotting my downfall since day one. She plops down onto the couch, arms spread wide. YN, whining, I gave that man my youth. My best outfits, my emotional availability, and what do I get? Fired like some peasant. Mr. Jeon, did Jungkook give you a reason? YN, PFF'd, reason, oh, he didn't even bother. He just sat there with that stupidly handsome face, all, YN, you're fired. Boom, no explanation, nothing, and guess what? Your precious heir didn't even flinch. Not one emotion. Mrs. Jeon, did you try asking him why? YN, throwing her hands up, why? Do I look like a woman with that kind of dignity? No, I stormed out like a queen. A disrespected queen. She leans forward, eyes narrowing conspiratorially. YN, and do you know what really gets me? His secretary. She smirked, like she won a gold medal in backstabbing. Mr. Jeon lets out a quiet cough to hide his chuckle. YN, oh, don't think I didn't notice. I saw that little twitch of her lips. It's always the quiet ones. Mark my words, she's evil. Mrs. Jeon, sweetheart, perhaps you should. YN, no, sweetheart, me, Mrs. Jeon, I am a scorned woman. Do you know how humiliating it is to be fired by your own boyfriend? In front of a woman who looks like an evil villain. Suddenly, YN's voice wobbles, tears pooling in her eyes. YN, softly, I loved him, you know. I loved that idiot, and he just tossed me aside like an expired yogurt. Mrs. Jeon, oh, darling. YN, sniffling, I swear if he wanted to break up, he could have just sent a sad little text like a normal man. But no, not Jeon Jungkook. He had to make it a corporate execution. She wipes at her tears dramatically with the sleeve of her designer coat. YN, and I bought him socks. Nice socks. And this is how he repays me. Mr. Jeon puts down his newspaper, shaking his head. Mr. Jeon, I'm sure Jungkook has his reasons. YN, reasons. Oh, I'll give you reasons. Reason number 1, I am delightful. Reason number 2, I tolerated his annoying gym obsession. Reason number 3, she hiccups. I never complained when he stole my fries. Not even once. That's true love. Mrs. Jaeon bites her lip, barely holding back her laughter. Mrs. Jaeon, perhaps you should rest, we'll talk to Jungkook. Late night, the house is dimly lit, the once lively atmosphere now quiet and heavy. Jungkook steps through the front door, looking exhausted, his tie loosened, sleeves rolled up. But nothing compares to the weight sitting on his chest. He barely gets 2 steps in before Mrs. Jaeon. Jungkook. Jungkook freezes. His mother's sharp tone cuts through the air like a knife. When he looks up, both his parents stand in the middle of the living room, faces tight with disapproval. Jungkook. Mom, Dad, Mr. Jaeon, do you have any idea what you've done? Jungkook sighs, dragging a hand through his hair. He's not in the mood for a lecture, but one look at their faces tells him he's not getting out of it. Jungkook sighs, dragging a hand through his hair. He's not in the mood for a lecture, but one look at their faces tells him he's not getting out of it. Mrs. Jaeon. YN was here. Jungkook. She was. Mrs. Jaeon. Angrily drunk. Crying her heart out. Jungkook's throat tightens. He expected YN to be angry but drunk. At his parents' house. Mr. Jaeon. What were you thinking? Firing her like that without an explanation. Jungkook. I didn't have a choice. Mrs. Jaeon's eyes flash. Mrs. Jaeon. Didn't have a choice. You're the CEO. Of course, you had a choice. Jungkook. It's not that simple, Mrs. Jaeon. No, Jungkook. What's not simple is watching someone we love cry over you. Jungkook opens his mouth but the words stick. He hates that he caused her pain. Hates that his actions pushed her to this point. Mrs. Jaeon. Softer, do you even realize how much she loves you? His heart clenches. Of course, he does. Mr. Jaeon. She's like a daughter to us, Jungkook. And tonight, we saw her breaking. Silence hangs in the air. For once, Jungkook, the man who always has an answer, has nothing. Mrs. Jaeon. She deserves better. That one hits harder than it should. Jungkook. Quietly, I know. His voice is strained, guilt crawling up his spine. He wants to explain, wants them to understand why he did it. But there's no time, not when YN's upstairs. Jungkook. I'll explain later. Mrs. Jaeon. Jungkook, please mom, for now. I need to see her. His parents exchange a look but say nothing as he disappears up the staircase. The room is dark, moonlight casting faint shadows across the walls. YN lies curled beneath the covers, her hair spilling over the pillow. Jungkook steps inside quietly, shutting the door behind him. His usual confidence slips away as he looks at her soft, vulnerable, tear-streaked even in sleep. He moves closer. Slowly. She's wearing his oversized hoodie. The sight alone makes his chest ache. He kneels by the bed, careful not to wake her. Jungkook. Whispering, I'm sorry. Unable to hold back any longer, he carefully slides onto the bed and wraps his arms around her. His warmth surrounds her, and he presses his face into her hair, whispering, Jungkook, softly, I'm so sorry, baby. I'm so sorry. For a moment, it feels like everything is still. But then, YN, mumbling, get off me. Jungkook freezes. Her voice is groggy, thick with sleep and something else. She stirs against him, her brows furrowing as she realizes who's holding her. YN, don't touch me. Pushing him, I said don't touch me. She sits up abruptly, her hair messy, eyes glassy from both sleep and alcohol. She glares at him, swaying slightly. Jungkook. Soft baby, you're drunk. YN, of course, I'm drunk. What else was I supposed to do after you, you heartless jerk? Jungkook sighs, running a hand through his hair. He knew this was coming. Jungkook. Baby, please. Just let me explain. YN. Mocking, oh, let me explain, Let me tell you why I embarrassed you in front of your little minion. Jungkook. I didn't mean to embarrass you. YN. Oh, what was it then? Was it show and tell day? Did you want to show off how you can ruin your girlfriend's dignity with one sentence? She wobbles as she stands up on the bed, pointing an accusing finger at him. YN. I gave you 2 years of my life, Jungkook. 2 years. And what do I get in return? Fired. Humiliated. And your little secretary smirking at me like she's won the lottery. Jungkook pinches the bridge of his nose, inhaling deeply. Jungkook. Baby, you're being dramatic. YN. Dramatic. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. CEO. Should I have written you a formal complaint instead? Maybe address it to your precious secretary, since clearly, she's more important than me. He moves to touch her again, but she slaps his hand away. YN. Don't you dare touch me, JEONJUNKOOK. Jungkook. Baby, please, I had to do it. It's not what you think, YN. Oh, of course. It's never what I think, right? Silly little YN, overreacting again while you play puppet master. Jungkook's jaw clenches as he watches her stumble to the edge of the bed. She fumbles with the blanket, muttering under her breath. YN, I should have known. Should have known the moment your secretary started looking at me like I was just some temporary inconvenience. And you didn't even defend me. Not one word, Jungkook. Just stood there, all serious and broody like you're in some tragic K-drama. He can't help it, a faint, exasperated chuckle escapes his lips. Jungkook. You're unbelievable. YN, excuse me. Jungkook. You came to my parents' house drunk just to roast me. YN. Yes, and I'd do it again. In fact, maybe I should leave a Google review while I'm at it. One-star boyfriend fires you and lets his secretary act like the queen of evil. Jungkook bites back a smile, even as frustration lingers in his voice. Jungkook sad-faced softly, you're impossible. YN, and you're the worst. She flops back onto the bed, crossing her arms in defiance. Jungkook stares at her for a long moment before sighing and sitting down beside her again. Jungkook. I didn't do it to hurt you, In. Her lips tremble slightly, her anger wavering under the weight of her feelings. YN, then why did you do it? His voice drops to a whisper, guilt threading through every word. Jungkook. Because I needed to keep you safe. Her frown deepens as she tries to process his words through her haze. YN, safe from what? Your ego. He reaches out, this time brushing her knuckles with his fingertips. Jungkook. Softly, just trust me, okay? I'll explain everything, but right now, you need to rest. She stares at him for a long beat, her heart aching, her mind swimming. YN, I still hate you. He smiles faintly, leaning closer. Jungkook. I know, she huffs, rolling onto her side with her back to him. YN, and your secretary still sucks. Jungkook chuckles softly under his breath, watching her with a mix of frustration, amusement, and something much deeper. Jungkook. Go to sleep, baby. And despite herself, despite all the chaos she does. Jaeon family living room, morning. The sun filters through the grand windows, casting a soft glow over the polished furniture. The atmosphere, however, is anything but calm. YN sits on the couch, her arms crossed tightly, face cold and distant. Mr. and Mrs. Jaeon sits nearby, tension heavy in the air. Jungkook stands in front of them. Mrs. Jaeon. Serious, you've kept us waiting long enough, Jungkook. Start talking. In doesn't say a word, refusing to even look at him. Jungkook takes a deep breath, running a hand through his hair before speaking. Jungkook. It's about Soojin. In's posture stiffens immediately at the mention of his secretary's name. Mr. Jaeon. What about her? Jungkook. She's not who you think she is. In lets out a dry, bitter laugh. YN, oh, really? Because I already thought she was a snake, so what's next? She breathes fire too. Jungkook flinches at the edge in her voice but keeps his composure. Jungkook. She's dangerous, In. More than you realize. His voice is low, serious enough to make even Mrs. Jaeon's expression softens into concern. Mrs. Jaeon. Dangerous how? He hesitates, his fists clenching at his sides. Jungkook. I overheard her a few weeks ago, talking to someone on the phone. In finally turns her head, her expression shifting from anger to confusion. YN, and Jungkook. She was talking about you. She wasn't just badmouthing you, In. She was planning to hurt you. The words hang heavy in the air, and for the first time, YN's anger flickers into something else, something closer to fear. YN, what do you mean hurt me? Jungkook takes a shaky breath, his voice firm but tinged with guilt. Jungkook. I mean, she wants you gone. Permanently. Silence. Mrs. Jaeon's hand flies to her mouth in shock while Mr. Jaeon's expression hardens. Mrs. Jaeon. Whispering, my God. YN. Disbelieving, no. That's insane. Jungkook steps closer, his voice urgent. Jungkook. I didn't want to believe it either, In. But I heard her. She said, she's in the way. Once she's gone, everything will fall into place. In blinks rapidly, trying to process his words. YN, but, why? What did I ever do to her? Jungkook shakes his head, jaw tight. Jungkook, you didn't do anything. It's me. Her eyes narrow in confusion. YN, you. Jungkook. She's obsessed with me, I ignored the signs for too long, brushed off the way she acted around you. Around us. I thought it was jealousy, but it's worse. She thinks if you're gone, she can have me. The weight of his words hits YN like a punch to the gut. Her voice trembles when she speaks. YN, so, you fired me, to protect me. He nods slowly, guilt washing over his features. Jungkook. I had to get you away from her. If she thought you were out of my life, maybe, if you are out of her sight, she would take her plan slowly, till then I can collect some evidence against her. Mrs. Jeon frowns, still processing the gravity of it all. Mrs. Jeon, why didn't you tell us sooner? Jungkook. Because I didn't have enough proof. If I went to the police with just a conversation I overheard, they wouldn't take it seriously. I needed to catch her in the act. Lets out a sharp breath, shaking her head in disbelief. YN, and you thought firing me, humiliating me was the best way to do that? His expression softens, pain flashing in his eyes. Jungkook. I didn't know what else to do. If she thought I didn't care about you anymore, maybe she'd let her guard down. YN. So instead of trusting me, you pushed me away. Jungkook. I was trying to keep you alive. The words are raw, desperate. He steps closer, his voice quieter but no less intense. Do you know how terrified I've been? Every day knowing she's watching you. Knowing she could hurt you, and I wouldn't be able to stop her in time. For the first time, YN sees how much this has been eating at him, the exhaustion in his face, the way his hands shake ever so slightly. Mr. Jeon. Serious, how do you plan to stop her, Jungkook? Jungkook. I've been gathering evidence. Security footage, phone records, I'll even have someone tracking her movements. She's slipping up, and once I have enough, I'll make sure she's arrested. Mrs. Jeon's eyes glisten with tears as she looks at her son. Mrs. Jeon, you should have told us sooner, we could have helped. Jungkook's voice softens, guilt dripping from every word. Jungkook. I know, I thought I could handle it myself, I thought if I kept you all in the dark, you'd be safe. But, I was wrong. He finally turns to YN, his gaze locking with hers, pleading, vulnerable. Jungkook. I'm sorry for everything. For hurting you. For making you feel like you didn't matter. You're the most important person in my life, I couldn't stand the thought of losing you. Her breath hitches, and for a long moment, she says nothing. The anger in her eyes softens just a little as she takes in the man in front of her. YN. Softly, you idiot. A faint, broken smile tugs at his lips. Jungkook. I know. She swallows hard, her heart warring between anger and the deep ache of loving him. YN, you should have told me. We could have fought her together. Jungkook. I was scared. Scared she'd hurt you before I could stop her. YN. Soft, but firm, I want to know everything from now on. No more secrets, Jungkook. He nods without hesitation. Jungkook. No more secrets. I promise. The room is dimly lit, the only light coming from the glow of Jungkook's computer screen. His jaw is clenched tight, eyes scanning through the final piece of evidence on his monitor, a recorded phone conversation. The distorted voice of Soojin echoes through the speakers. Soojin, on recording, she's nothing. Once she's out of the picture, he'll be mine. You know what to do. Make it look like an accident. Jungkook slams his laptop shut, his heart pounding. His hands tremble slightly as he picks up his phone, but his expression remains cold, determined. He scrolls to the contact labeled Detective Min and hits call. Jungkook. Into the phone, it's time. I have everything you need. Officer Min, you're sure? No loose ends. Jungkook. I'm sure. I have phone records, security footage, and a confession enough to bury her. He leans back in his chair, exhaling sharply as the weight of weeks of tension presses against his ribs. Officer Min, I'll send a team. She won't get away with this. Jungkook. Good, I want her out of our lives permanently. There's a pause, and for a moment, the only sound is Jungkook's shallow breathing. Officer Min, and YN. She's safe. Jungkook. She is safe. I'm not letting her out of my sight. Not again. He hangs up, running a hand through his hair, his muscles still tense. Jungkook enters the living room and sees YN sitting on the couch. Mrs. Jeon. Softly, is it done? Jungkook nods, his voice calm but sharp. Jungkook. I called the police. They're arresting her right now. YN. Just above a whisper, you did it. He steps closer, his gaze locked on hers. Jungkook. I wasn't going to let her hurt you again. Her fingers tighten around the mug as a mix of relief and exhaustion washes over her. YN. you really waited this long. All this time, you were collecting evidence. His expression softens, guilt flickering in his eyes. Jungkook, I had to be sure. If I moved too soon, she could have slipped through the cracks. I couldn't risk that, not when your life was on the line. In swallows hard, her anger from before starting to melt into something else, something deeper. YN, you didn't tell me, and I thought. She stops, voice catching in her throat. Jungkook moves closer, crouching down in front of her. Jungkook, I know, I hurt you, and I'm sorry, Jungkook, but everything I did was to keep you alive. His parents watch silently from across the room, their expressions unreadable. Mr. Jeon, quietly, why didn't you ask for help, Jungkook? We would have supported you. Jungkook closes his eyes briefly, as if carrying the weight of his choices. Jungkook, I thought I had to do it alone. I didn't want to drag anyone else into danger. His gaze snaps back to YN, softer now but no less intense. Jungkook, especially you. The room falls into a heavy silence before YN speaks again, her voice shaky but firm. YN, and now. He reaches out, gently covering her hand with his. Jungkook, now she's gone. You're safe. Her lips tremble slightly, but she doesn't pull away. YN, you really think this is over? Jungkook exhales deeply, his thumb brushing softly over her knuckles. Jungkook, I won't stop watching over you. Ever. But I promise, she's not coming back. Mrs. Jeon's voice cuts through the air softly. Mrs. Jeon, he will never stop worrying about you, In. Every day. In looks down at their joined hands, her heart pounding in her chest. YN, why didn't you just tell me? Jungkook, because if you knew, you would have stayed. And I couldn't live with myself if something happened to you because of me. Her breath catches, and for the first time, tears begin to gather in her eyes. YN, softly, I thought you stopped caring. Jungkook shakes his head immediately, leaning closer. Jungkook, never. His voice cracks slightly, but his words are steady. I love you, In. That's why I did everything. Why I'll always do everything to protect you. A tear slips down her cheek, and he catches it with his thumb, his touch gentle. Jungkook, and I'm done keeping secrets. From now on, you know everything. The air hangs heavy with unspoken feelings as YN finally meets his gaze, raw, vulnerable, and full of longing. YN, I hated you, you know. For making me feel so small. Jungkook, I hated myself more. YN, so, what now? Jungkook, now, we move forward. Together, if you'll let me. Her heart stumbles in her chest, the weight of everything finally settling, but with it comes a strange, fragile hope. YN, you'll tell me everything. No more pushing me away. Jungkook, I swear, no more pushing you away.